This is the famous cube of the COSO internal control. It addresses three dimensions at the same time. First are the components of internal control, namely control environment, risk assessment, control activities, information and communication, and monitoring activities. These five components address three different types of objectives, as we discussed before: operational, reporting, and compliance objectives. And all of that is happening in various sections or parts of the entity, such as overall organization level, division, operating or business unit level, and functions such as finance, HR, supply chain, etc. So how does all that fit together? Look at the example of Nosedive. It has identified its mission and vision, set strategies, established objectives, and has formulated plans of how to achieve them. It has set objectives at various levels. There are objectives which are set for the whole organization, like 10% growth in revenue or 10% reduction in sales and marketing expenses. These are examples of time-bound objectives, say for one financial year or a quarter, etc. There are other entity-level objectives which are kind of ongoing, like you don't set a timeline for their achievement. And Nosedive needs to keep achieving them all the time, such as sustaining organizational success, reporting to stakeholders, recruiting and retaining motivated and competent employees, achieving and maintaining a positive reputation, and complying with laws and regulations. And it has also set objectives for specific business units and functions, like 5% reduction in waste in manufacturing, or like 10% reduction in finance department processing cost, etc. Remember that the three categories of objectives that we have discussed, operational, reporting, and compliance, are not parts or units of the entity. They are categories of objectives, which cuts across the organization. For instance, operations objectives relate to the efficiency and effectiveness of operations, not specific operating units or functions such as sales, marketing, procurement, or human resources. They cut across organizational structure, just like the five components cut across and apply to all three categories of objectives. For example, attracting, developing, and retaining competent people who are able to conduct internal control, part of the control environment component, is relevant to all three objective categories, as we will further explore while discussing the five components in detail later. Now we will review how Nosedive has set up its system of internal control to support its efforts in achieving these objectives. And Nosedive is considering using the integrated internal control framework. Let's see how Nosedive can implement an effective internal control system which will fulfill the definition. Let's revise it once more before we start discussing the components and principles. COSO defines internal control as: internal control is a process effected by an entity's board of directors, management, and other personnel, designed to provide reasonable assurance regarding the achievement of objectives relating to operations, reporting, and compliance. So Nosedive needs to ensure a few things while designing its internal control. Number one, it should be guided and effected by a board, management, and all personnel. Number two, it should provide reasonable assurance towards, number three, achievement of objectives. See you in the next lesson, where we will continue our discussion of the COSO framework and its components and principles.